Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today's show is brought to you by WODproof. WODproof recently launched a new program to help pro members improve their and their range of motion while becoming better overall athletes. WODproof has always been an app that I go to film my workouts because I can listen to music at the same time. But now that they have WODproof Bionic, I use it to measure my mobility, increase my mobility. It's really cool. You can check them out at the show notes. There's a link in our show notes, and I think there's a discount there. The show is also brought to you by X Endurance. X Endurance Sports Supplements is one of the few supplements approved by Informed Sport for professional athletes. Some of the best athletes in this particular sport use it, but athletes all over the world use it. We highly recommend checking out X Endurance, and there's also a link in the show notes, and I believe a discount in there for you as well. Let's go ahead and go back to the show. On today's show, we have none other than Jake Marconi. Jake, how are you this morning, bro?
Good, Jared. Thanks for having me. I woke up a little bit earlier than my wake up time for you. I didn't sleep in.
All good, man. This is earlier, for us as well. So luckily I have like this really fancy camera light that Alex told me to get, and it makes me look less ugly even when I'm tired. So
it looks great. I logged on and was like, I gotta get one of those.
It's nice, man.
Got all types of mixed lighting here. Yeah.
I don't take a call without it now. I'm like, no. Because sometimes you jump on like a Zoom. Just blotches out everything. Like sometimes you get on a Zoom call and you're like, whoa, like who's that?
Every time. Like I'll see a professional photo and be like, oh, you look like a person. That's cool. And then you get on a Zoom and I'm like, can we go no video on this, please?
Yeah, you're like, what am I, friggin' Dracula? Why do I have like?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like, what is this? And like, my eyebrows are just so far out over my eyes. Yeah.
Like I'm a statue.
I'm with you. What time is it for you? Where are you? Where are you in the world right now? You're a traveling man.
Yeah, I'm in. This is my last week in Florida.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I'm in Jacksonville Beach right now.
Okay. Where's next?
So I moved to Vegas next week.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
So no more 7:30 calls. My time.
No more. Absolutely not. I will have to politely decline any athletes that want to do 7:30 calls because that will be 4:30 a.m. and that's a no-go for me. I mean,
correct.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody that would be like, I'd do that for, honestly.
That's fair. It's totally fair.
But hey, Jake, if you were to choose what character you would be on the Ice Age movies, what character would you be?
Oh man, I don't know when the last time I watched Ice Ages, but off the top of my head, probably. Oh, you got them all up. Let's see. I don't know, man. I really like Sid.
Cooper kind of claims Sid, so I mean, I guess two people could be Sid.
Cooper claims Sid. All right, I'm not opposed. Oh no, not Sid. What is the mammoth's name?
I could see you as the mammoth. I don't know the mammoth's
Morty?
name. I don't remember. Morty?
Manny. I would take Manny.
Yeah, I see that. He's got some hair too. He's got some nice hair.
He's got some hair. He's relaxed for the most part.
Yeah. Until he has to like step up. He's pretty relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were Wadapalooza week. We were all, I mean, you were there and you're in the group chat. They were all like just dogging each other on what cartoon character they are. And of course, like Zach and Danielle are going at it. And they're like, what is Jared? And Danielle's like, oh, I know. And she like pulled up her phone and she pulled up the saber-toothed tiger. And I was like, is that supposed to be offensive? I'm stoked on that. Like,
yeah, no, I think that's cool.
Yeah. I was like, if anybody was like, hey, Jared, you're a saber-toothed tiger. I'm like, let's go.
Sick. I think he's kind of a dick in the movie though. No,
I was like, I kind of was thinking about that, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you got the similar. Yeah, I could see the look. You got the look going on for sure, without question. Doesn't he kind of come around though? Like,
Yeah, no, he has a change of heart. I mean, because at first he's like a double agent. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I think he's trying to eat the mammoth, right, in the beginning.
I think so.
Totally not my agenda, so I don't know where that comes from. But and then
I don't
he
know
like
that Danielle's like super versed in the movie. I think she's just picking people that look like people.
anyways, just wanted to start there, but man, I'm glad to have you on the show, especially because we know each other. So I thought this would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to learn about, the other day you and I were chatting, and we were like, we were having a conversation. We were starting to like go into some life stuff, and then I think we got distracted or something, and we were both like, all right.
We were starting, and I was like, you know what, man, I'm so tired. I want
Oh
to
yeah, it was
actually
super
talk to you
late. It
about
was like
this.
midnight. And I was
Yeah,
like,
it
I
was.
agree. I'm into this conversation, but like we gotta pause.
Yeah, that was
So
Saturday night at Wadapalooza.
yeah. So we get to pick it back up live. With that being said, Jake, if you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Whoa, wow, heavy hitters this morning.
I'm gonna like bob and weave through some random questions. That's kind of how my flow is here.
So 3 words. I don't know. I feel like this is a better question for other people, but the way that I see myself is curious for sure would be the first one. Um, Curious. Uh, Man, every adjective just slipped my mind. You asked for 3, and I forgot 1. Um,
Curious, tired.
no, not tired at all. Just the posing the question made they all went away. But I would say I'm definitely curious. I am empathetic. Like other people are. I'm often more interested in what other people have going on. Um, which I don't know if you can call yourself empathetic. I feel like that's for other people to call you. But and then a third word, I'd say I'm pretty relaxed.
Okay.
Those are like not watch. I'm gonna text you this afternoon with 3 way better ones,
Bangers.
but yeah, 3 bangers. In more words, I would say that I'm really curious. I'm relatively chill in the sense that I like follow my curiosity through life and kind of see where that takes me. It has always been fitness, right? So I've always been most curious about fitness, but I do a ton of other random things just to see. And I've got a buddy that gives me shit all the time. He's like, you try a hobby and then you're kind of done with it. I'm like, yeah, I want to see if I liked it. And then
Yeah, you
I
gotta see if
decided
you still enjoy.
yeah, it wasn't fit to add into the life. And I'm probably old. Like I'm probably 65 at heart.
Dude, I'm like 65 physically. So
Yeah, in my spirit, I feel like I'm 65.
sometimes, it's so interesting, like not to go down this rabbit hole. I mean, we can for a moment, but like sometimes in certain instances, I feel 65, right? Like a song comes on and I'm like, oh, this is so good. And everyone else is like, what is this? And I'm like, what do you mean? What is, it's like the Rolling Stones or, shoot, Hank Williams Jr. or like, you know what I mean? Like something like older. And
Yeah,
then there's time, like I went to a bar the other night, a little speakeasy on the wall with like Jimi Hendrix. Um, there's like the Beastie Boys on the wall. It's like the black and white photos of like Jim Morrison. And I was like with this girl, and I'm like, hey, do you know who that is? She's like, no. I'm like, who that is? No. And she wasn't like particularly young. She was about my age, And it was like,
yeah.
geez, I feel so old. And then sometimes I do stupid things, and I'm like, what am I, 12? So like it's just like this weird where I'm like, I don't know. I guess I
I
am
feel like that
32
never ends.
because I just end up in the middle. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, you're like, I guess I'm exactly as old as I'm supposed to be.
yeah. So I feel you on that. What was I going to say? Empathy. Oh yeah, that's funny that you say that. I think that if you're self-aware enough, you can say that you're an empathetic person, but you can't lead with that.
No.
I asked you, so I like led you down that path. But I used to date a girl, and this isn't the Jared's dating life show, but I used to date a girl, and she was kind of a lunatic, but she would be like, "Oh, I'm empathetic," and I'm like, "You're like the furthest thing. Like, you can't say that." You know what I mean? Because like,
Yeah.
you show no empathy because you can't just say it and it's true. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like
"Oh,
you
I'm
saying it is
empathetic.
making it.
I'm an empath." Like, no, you're not. You're a psychopath. Like, it's totally different.
Actually, you're nuts.
Yeah, it was like, anyway, so that was funny that you brought that up. I think, but no, I think if you, like I said, if you're self-aware enough, you can recognize like, oh, I'm oftentimes thinking about what other people are thinking about, which I think is interesting. That probably makes you a great coach because you're thinking about how to program for other people. And, even especially like in real time coach, not like programming online, yes, but like a real time coach where you're like, how do I
Right.
create the best experience for everybody? This person needs this modification and this person needs this scale. And I know these people, so I'm always thinking about them. So I think coaching wise, empathy is a strong attribute.
Yeah, I think that's why I identify with that particular word, just because always in my coaching, I've been more interested in like, yes, let's get your push press better. With elite athletes, it's different, right? Like the
Totally.
primary goal is to get them really good, and like also them as people matters a ton in that. But with people at the gym that I coached at for the last 6 years, I certainly cared to get them better at fitness. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, if we can have a really good hour together and have some type of connection, and you're talking about your kids and you're doing fitness and you're having fun, you're all the more likely to come back and have this be a really positive experience. And I always cared a little bit more on that side, at least in the gym setting with people that,
Yeah.
man, if you can back squat PR, cool. But if you can have like a really good hour, that's the best.
Yeah. And I think it's like good coaches find the balance because I have known coaches or even former employees of mine and things like that in the past where people are almost too empathetic, right? I would say too empathetic really means like people pleasing, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. They're like, oh, you
But
don't feel like doing it today. You don't have to.
yeah, exactly. And then it's like
Yeah,
you're going to lose that client eventually, anyways, because there's a balance between them having a good time and getting to know you and getting results because that's what they're paying for. And so
right.
it's like finding that balance instead of always being like, no, you don't have to do that. And eventually they're like, I haven't reached any of my goals, and they blame you. And you're like, well, I've been
Right.
catering to you this whole time, like, so it's always
Yeah.
that.
And if
Push
you have a
and
good
pull.
rapport with somebody in that sense where you've said, hey, today you don't have to do that, that's fine. When you do come to them and you go, hey, motherfucker, like today you've got to go hard, even though you don't want to, they're all the more likely to listen to you.
Yeah, especially if you develop that rapport and you know them well enough, you can call them motherfucker.
Yeah. Can I swear on this? I've been trying to swear a little less.
I don't know that we have. I rarely do. That was when in Rome. That's like a me and you thing. So,
All right. We'll back it down.
Jake, here's another one for you. Actually, where are you at right now? You're in Providence?
I'm in Providence.
Okay. If you were to sum up like your life story in 2 to 3 minutes, what would that sound like?
I'm not that far along. One.
Ooh.
So it could be relatively short. My life story in 2 or 3 minutes. All right. I grew up on a farm in Connecticut near the top. I've always got to clarify because you say Connecticut and people think the bottom, not the bottom. Like we're not talking Greenwich, East Greenwich near New York. We're talking like almost Massachusetts.
Got it.
But I grew up on a farm, a horse farm with two older parents compared to my buddies. They're 64 and 74. And if you talk to me for any length of time, you know that like that's a big part of my identity, that my parents were older and they were just really chill by the time they had me. And I just grew up around older people. So I'm comfortable around older people, more so than people my own age. But grew up on a farm. My dad was a carpenter. My mom did all types of stuff. While I was growing up, they bootstrapped a 36 home development. So like a little community. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Like 36 homes on this big plot of acreage, all part of the same HOA. And That
Yeah, I
was
mean,
from 2008 to 2004 to 2016. So that was a huge part of my childhood. Um, so I grew up on the farm, grew up with my parents building homes, and then when I got into sports, I was like, I don't know, the same age as everybody else. And my parents were my coach. My dad wasn't really, but my mom coached everything. She coached baseball, soccer. She didn't let me play basketball because I didn't want to go to the first practice. And I called her bluff. She said that if I didn't go, I couldn't play the whole season. And I thought that she was bluffing. She was not. So I didn't go to the first basketball
so you
practice and I
did.
never played basketball.
That's not called calling her bluff.
No, I
I
thought I
mean,
was. And
yeah.
she was not bluffing. Um, So I was in organized sports like at the same age as everybody else, T-ball, farm league, and not quit, but I told my mom that I wanted to stop playing. So she made me finish out the season and then I didn't play again. And I started working out in like 7th or 8th grade because I was like 5'3" and just as round as I was tall. So my dad started working out with me and I got into my 8th grade gym class, and my teacher was like, "Hey, you're too angry and you're too like into working out to not do anything with all this energy that you've got. So you should go play lacrosse." So my first introduction back into organized sports was playing lacrosse, but in that time in between, I was racing BMX and like riding BMX. So I was a skater kid, BMX kid, like a punk, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
all through like, kind of the end of elementary and all through middle school. And then I started playing organized sports again, right in 8th grade. And so I played organized sports and then got into high school, started playing football, but the whole time was much more interested in working out, was reading like T Nation. You know what T Nation is?
T Nation? Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah. I
Test
don't, not
Nation?
everybody in CrossFit knows what T Nation is.
I'm a former
Um,
bodybuilder, Jake.
I
That's how it
know.
works.
I know. I was just checking, but so I was reading the T Nation and every powerlifting forum and bodybuilding forum I could on my phone in school. So I'd get it taken away all the time, and it'd be some yoked up dude on my screen, and my teacher would go, "What are you looking at?" And I would have to explain that I'm reading about working out. And so the whole time I was playing football, I had a ton of fun playing, but I was way more interested in training. So my football team started working out at my house in my basement, and then we found a local CrossFit gym to start working out at. And then the natural progression was I hated CrossFit. I thought it was dumb because everybody that I was reading thought it was dumb. Um, and then we went to a CrossFit gym and we got exposed a little bit to it, but we're still doing strength and conditioning. I say we, my football team. And then football ended, and I just kind of stayed at the CrossFit gym working out. And there was a group of guys who were really going for it, and they were talking about this thing called the Open, and were gonna they were gonna do it. And so I started training with those guys for the. This was in 2015. I graduated high school. I started training for the Open with them, and then did the Open. And after that Open, decided, all right, I'm gonna try to compete in the sport and make it to the games. And so that had been my purpose with CrossFit for the whole time that I've been doing it. When I started, I was like, all right, in 5 or so years, I want to make it to the games. And so I have a little bit of a different story there in the sense that most people, I feel like, started CrossFit not trying to go to the games just as a hobby and like had their pretty traditional CrossFit story. I was already really into working out, and this was just a natural extension of my competing. Um, yeah, and then I went to college and landed on Providence. I hated Johnson and Wales the first 2 times that I toured it. That's where I went to school. And I got to Providence and hated Providence for probably 3 months. But I found the gym and just found a home, and now Providence is. This is probably where long term I'll come back and settle.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So many touch points. I grew up skateboarding as well, and like that was for me for 11 years old to about 17, when like life got real and I had to get a job and find money to buy a car to drive to that job, and
Yep.
all that stuff got really real. And of course I didn't have time to skateboard anymore. Plus I didn't have health insurance. Anyways, if we knew somebody that stopped skating to play lacrosse, we would have dogged the crap out of you. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like but we didn't have lacrosse down here. I think there is lacrosse like now in Lakeland, which is like a small town, but like we just grew up like super skater punk misfit. Like,
Oh yeah, so did we, man. But I stayed friends with all those guys. We didn't hang out as much for sure because we weren't riding together. They were all a year ahead of me though, so when I started playing lacrosse, I wasn't with any of them um, on a day-to-day basis in school.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there
they
was
were already.
already some separation. They had moved up. Um, it's funny you say that. I don't get much shit from them, and I still talk to a lot of those guys. It's like not frequently, but we chat here and there.
Yeah, is lacrosse more like common in Connecticut?
Yeah, yeah. The Northeast is like a lacrosse hotbed.
Yeah, so like down
It's a
here, the only people that do lacrosse are like rich kids, and
That's not far off. We were a
yeah,
ragtag team, so my town didn't even have a lacrosse team. I had to go the town next door to go play.
got it. That's sick.
Yeah,
Um,
and we were the band of misfits for a lacrosse team.
yeah, I want to be on. That's the team. If I'm gonna do lacrosse, that's the team I want to be on.
Yes, that was
Um,
us.
so when you say when you started CrossFit or when you knew about CrossFit early on, you didn't really like it or believe in it, and I can empathize with that as well. Especially because, like, ironically, my early story is relatively similar. Like, I found fitness in weightlifting class in high school, and then really started to pursue it when I was 17. I stopped smoking weed and started working out. Totally different story. And so I started reading everything I could, which was T Nation, even Men's Health, right? Like just kind of like
Yep,
figuring out all the different sectors. And I got NASM
muscle and
certified.
fitness,
What's that?
muscle and
First,
fitness,
every muscle and fitness, T Nation, Men's Health. I think those are probably like big three, like top
muscular
three.
development. That was like the bodybuilding like newsletter.
Yeah, I don't know that I got too much into that. I mean, like if it popped up on Google, if I'm searching some particular topic, it was coming up. But like you said, everything that we were learning through those was like anti-CrossFit. And of course, CrossFit was so much different 10, 12, like that long. I mean, for you, we're talking about we're talking about 10 years ago for you, right? 8, 9,
Uh, yeah, 7, 8,
7,
7,
8.
8
Yeah.
years ago.
And so the sport has evolved into I would say a sport versus like a regimen where people just did it really fast and hard early on.
Right.
Um, and so, those early stages, I remember friends asking me, like a buddy of mine, his dad owned a bunch of real estate. And one of the first 50 CrossFits in the world was in Lakeland. And it was at, his dad's real estate. He's like, "Oh, dude, we can go work out there for free. My dad owns the building." And I'm like, "Well, what do they do?" And I'm like, we're doing chest, we're doing back, we're doing, like
Right.
arms,
Yeah.
shoulders. We're getting a pump. And he's like, "Oh, dude, like kettlebell swings, rope climbs, sprints." I'm like, no, 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 none of that.
Yeah.
I want none of that. And then you watch the videos, of course, and you're like, I will die. I'm gonna break myself. Like, um,
100%.
when they started introducing like barbell snatches and ring muscle ups, and you're watching people do that back then, totally different than now.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, because they look like they're dying.
yeah,
Their
yeah, and
knees.
it's
Yeah.
dude, yeah. I'm like, I don't have the shoulders for that. I mean, early on, I was injury prone, so CrossFit was a scary
Were
journey to
you were
embark.
just rolled forward like a pit bull?
Rolled forward, like if you lift anything the wrong way, my back goes out. I think from skateboarding, honestly, when I look back, because I am like super injury prone, and so
Mm,
like I think from skateboarding probably because we skated like we were, you know, I think the biggest stair set I did was like 12, 13 stairs, like ollie,
yeah.
frontside flip. Um, and I fell. I mean, we fell every day, all day. You know what I mean?
So,
Like,
yeah, but you don't think that made you more resilient? I feel like when you fall and you're 13, 14, 15, it just doesn't
I
count.
wish, I try to piece it together. Like, well, growing up, like we were super poor, and when I look back on our skating days, I would probably eat once a day and drink like a gallon of Mountain Dew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like malnourished, sleeping 6 hours, partying, drinking, doing drugs, like, that, like all the things.
Yeah, being
And so,
hard on your body.
yeah, so I look back and I'm like, I don't remember my back going out as a kid, but I do broke both ankles, broke both wrists. So that's like already bad for my kinesiology, like,
Right.
um, and then, yeah, just early on lifting, I was like, I hated deadlifts because I would hurt my back all the time. And I had the best looking deadlift of anybody in the crew. I mean, we're all like 17 years old. Everyone's picking it up like a friggin' oval. And like I'm like, looking at the magazine before I go. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, making sure you're doing it right.
yeah, like
Yeah.
neutral spine and all the things. And I'm like, why am I getting hurt? So I just think inevitably something, or maybe even just genetics. I mean, who knows? I
Yeah.
haven't figured it out yet. Nobody's been able to teach me why my body doesn't work properly.
This isn't
Um,
this isn't about you necessarily, but you saying that reminded me of, I feel most people who really try to avoid injury are the ones who get hurt the most.
yeah, yeah, and I
Like they're
agree. And I think,
super careful, especially on deadlift.
are you frozen or did you stop talking?
Oh,
Oh, you're good.
no,
No, I
we both
agree, and I
froze.
think that too has handicapped me, especially early on in doing CrossFit, because I was like a form Nazi for 7,
Mm,
8, 9 years in bodybuilding. Because in bodybuilding, it's like, one, it's all aesthetics. Two, a lot of 90% hypertrophy, a lot of isometrics, right? But like it's all perfect. Like even my planks, I would like look in a mirror and be like, oh, lower my butt. You know what I mean? Like, and
right.
so then coming into CrossFit, like there's a degree of variance that you have to allow in order to, like, for example, Wadapalooza, handstand walking, grabbing the sandbag real quick, running across. Like you're not going to be able to be upright,
No,
like to move fast and lift heavy. And in life, like, and so that's something I recognized. That's kind of why I got into CrossFit actually 3 years ago. Was like, man, I'm not even that prepared for life. I just look jacked. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I can't run. When I jump, it hurts. Like I'm 205 and 6% body fat, and I can't run. And like I'm scared to bend my back. I can only like,
Dude, such a
so I was like,
unit. 205, 6% body fat. Oh my God. Well, I'll trade places. Go ahead. You could take CrossFit. Have it. Have it.
I mean, it didn't, like, again, it's like it looks cool to people,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel good. I feel better now, even though I have like torn labrum and you know, uh, always sore. But
No, I imagine being that low body fat is just, it
yeah, just
can't
a
be
risk.
comfortable.
No, and it's, and even the diet, like I remember, I'm gonna transition back to you momentarily, but I remember starting CrossFit and like getting into it like right away because, right when I was into it, it's like, all right, I'm in, I'm joining, this is what I'm doing 6 days a week, and my
You don't strike
diet,
me as
like,
that type of person at all.
no, um,
I'm kidding.
my diet was still bodybuilding diet. So I'm talking about like 300 grams of protein, um, probably 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, and whatever fats are associated with the protein I'm taking in. Um, just that was just what I was conditioned for years.
Right.
And so you start CrossFit. I mean, talk about like stomach issues. Um, like my digestive system was so out of whack, and it was hard mentally to like switch to like 300 grams of carbs and then 200 grams of protein. I'm like, I'm going to lose all my muscle. So like that was if I've lost 20 pounds since I started CrossFit. And like I said, I feel a lot better, but that was just an unusual transition. Like it's so much different. Like to be like a competent CrossFit athlete, the lifestyle is radically different than uh, a competitive or even a mildly competitive bodybuilder.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
So, but yeah, like you said, I think there's something to be said about being perfect all the time. And then when you get into a scenario or an environment where perfection is a luxury and it's not a commonality. And so then it's like, I'm the weakest link in the room, even though I look strong because I pick up a sandbag with a arch in my back and I'm like, oh, like this doesn't
Right.
feel good. I haven't trained this, um, which is why I like odd object stuff now. So,
I love
um,
object stuff, man. Like yokes. farmer's handles, sandbags, all that stuff is super fun. I think for that reason, like it actually does require a lot of technique, but I like using it for clients too, especially ones that
Yeah.
are afraid to like be out of position. I'm like, go ahead and pick that sandbag up with a really rounded back. It actually feels more comfortable than if you do it with like this perfectly straight up and down
Yeah.
technique.
Yeah. It's more realistic. I mean, like you go to pick up your 3-year-old, you're probably not going to be able to like squat down perfectly, pick them up with a chest up, back up,
Right.
neutral spine. It's like, you got to, they're running in the road. You got to grab them and like pull them out. It's like some type of, anyways.
No, I'm a big proponent of that. It's like if we were built to only move in these perfect positions, we just wouldn't have made it this long as a species.
Human survival. And of course we it's funny because it's like a double-edged sword. CrossFit is, it's an evolution of functional fitness, but at the end of the day, it's like the 21st century. Very few of us are having to do that much manual labor. So it's, we're not really training for things that we actually need to do. But
no, I do love that when people are like, we are training for life. I'm like, honestly, I don't know that we are actually. I think
not
I think we
anymore.
have to work out as humans because otherwise we go nuts.
Yeah.
But like most people who don't work out can still bring their groceries in. Just saying. Like
probably
we're choosing to work out. It's relatively arbitrary, which is fine. Like I'm great. Do something you like for no reason other than that you like to do it. Like that's why I train. Like I do not train to be better at life.
Yeah, because like even sometimes I go to do life things and I'm like, damn, I'm too sore to do this life thing.
100%.
Where I'm preparing for life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jake, I'm gonna bounce around here. What's your favorite band?
It's currently Lake Street Dive.
Okay.
Are you familiar with them?
No, but I'm not that cool. I don't have like cool Spotify playlists, and I don't have. So what kind of music is that?
They're on that playlist pretty frequently. It's like it's a little folky, poppy, indie band. They're kind of hard to explain.
Like Mumford and Sons kind of vibe? Like would they be on the same?
That's actually a good comparison. Yeah, they're a little less folky than Mumford and Sons. Like Mumford and Sons has a banjo and right. Yeah, they don't. They have a sax player. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to correct me on that. They have 2 guitar players, a keyboard, and the woman who's the lead singer of the band is incredible. Her voice is wild. We saw her in person last year. Coop's gonna call me when he sees this podcast and be like, "You haven't stopped talking about this since you've went," because it was really good. But we saw her in person, and she was great. Like just one of those voices where she starts up and you go, "That's like a different." You know when you see somebody so jacked or so big, like we're different. Like that's a different person. That's her. Like her voice is wild. So I've been really into their music for the last year.
And you see it in person too. So you're like, what am I witnessing? This is angelic. Like this is different.
That's a good, it was angelic. It was really, really cool.
That's funny.
It was a really good time.
What about when you work out? What's your favorite, like, because I know you're not probably jamming that while you're like training.
No. When I work out, I listen mostly to rap.
Okay.
But so like I mentioned, I've worked in the gym for 6 years and spent most of the day in the gym. And so at some point you're just like putting on whatever's fresh. So I flip back and forth. Like I'll listen to rock, I'll listen to old school rock. I'm gonna get shit for this. I don't love old school hip hop to work out to. Like I don't mind driving around listening to it, but
I was gonna say I picture driving when I think of like Eazy-E, or is that what you mean? Like
yes, yeah.
Okay, Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Bone Thugs and Harmony. I could work out to Bone Thugs and Harmony probably.
Me too. There's some songs that are good. Like I could work out to ODB. Holding Bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some of that stuff is really good, but I'm probably listening to rap 90% of the time. Or
Nice.
if we're trying to just have like a steady cadence of music, because you ever find you start to like do whatever you're doing to the cadence of the music.
Oh yeah.
Um, I'll listen to Big Booty Mix because it's all kind of fast.
And you're just like, you can flow with that the whole time.
Yeah, it's just like song into song into song into song. And then a lot of times, like I'll just have somebody else put something on, so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, that's typically how. I mean, at my gym, I'm not head coach or anything like that, so there's already a bunch of playlists and stuff, and they listen to some ratchet stuff. I secretly enjoy it a whole lot, but I don't take the blame for it when it's on and someone's like, "What is this?" I'm like,
Yeah, I've had a few playlists banned at Full Range.
This, I guess our environment, like, because I mean, like super ratchet stuff we'll play.
Yeah, no, same.
Everyone's used to it, so there's no playlists have been banned.
It's funny, you don't even notice it. Like, it takes a class member coming up and being like, "Hey, so did you hear that last line?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, no, I totally no. What did it say?" And then they've gotta say it to you, and you go, "Oh, yeah,
I'll
turn
change
that
it.
off. I'll go ahead
I'll
and turn
usually
that
just
off."
like
Yeah.
be walking around the room and you'll see 3 or 4 people like look up or look at you and you're like, "What did you do? Like a PR?"
Yeah.
And they're like, and they're like,
No, no,
"You-"
no.
they're like,
They
"Oh,
tell me, I'm
right,
like, "They
right.
said that shit? They
She
said
just
that?"
said like something crazy." Yeah. I'm like, what
Can't say it on air.
yeah, exactly. Like
We'll get
there's just
banned from the radio.
I was so I'm in Jacksonville Beach and Brooke Haas. I'm not sure if you remember or familiar with Brooke. Like went to the games in 2019. She was on teams with Christian Harris. I don't know like the whole what year and all that fun stuff, but
I know that name.
yeah, she's a beast, super fit. She trains like pretty much like she's a head coach at our gym, and I ran into Christian Harris like last year. Oh, like with you at Big Dang.
CrossFit Games.
Yeah, CrossFit Games. And he was like, "Does she still like play basically the most ratchet music ever?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." No. So
Some things
like
don't change.
like nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Um that was pretty funny. What Jake, what's the earliest memory you have in life?
The earliest memory I have in life, um, I think it might be. I'm sure if I dug deep, I could find something earlier, but I think it's flying to Disneyland for my 4th birthday, which was the only time I've ever been to Disney. And honestly, if I never go back, I will not care at all. Like, I'm sure I'll take my kids at some point. I don't have kids, but when I do, I'm sure I'll take them. I was 4 years old and we're flying to Disney, and so there's 2 parts to this. One, I remember that, like, I had gas.
I
As a
knew this was
4-year-old,
gonna be a gas story.
you can't really control it. It's actually not. This is just an aside. This is a sidebar.
Okay,
Uh,
whatever.
and it was so bad that multiple people on the plane around my area were like, "Is there, like, something wrong on this plane?" Um, and I remember my mom, I've asked her about this story. I remember that she knew exactly what it was and was not saying anything, would not acknowledge that it existed. People would go, "Do you smell that?" No, no, I don't. But she told the flight attendant it was my birthday. So this was in 2000, and they brought a roll of toilet paper with candles in it, and then like some plain cookies, and the plane saying "Happy Birthday" to me.
That's awesome.
That's my earliest memory. Yeah.
Wow. I think you take the cake on that, pun intended. Um, is it? It's funny because you had this gas thing, and then they brought you a toilet paper roll for your birthday. So I'm like,
It's a little ironic. Did they know? Were they?
yeah, like
Yeah.
clean up, bro. Like,
Take care of
oh.
yourself, 4-year-old.
Dude, that's a really vivid 4-year-old memory.
Oh man, it's so vivid. Yeah.
You went to like Orlando Disneyland or Disney? Is it Land in California and World in Florida?
I don't know. Whatever's in Florida though.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I grew up. We went to that a bunch of times. Um, Yeah, it's kind of overrated, I think. But it's still something that I think every kid should experience.
Yeah, I also hate rides, like, hate rides. So I have
Like, you don't like
0,
roller
like
coasters? You don't
oh,
like roller
yeah.
coasters?
No.
Like,
Terrified,
you're scared of heights?
terrified. Nope. I'm not scared of heights. I don't mind heights.
What are you terrified of? Is it the motion?
Nope. It's the whole I'm like, I'm not I don't have a control thing, like, I don't mind being out of control as far as, like, letting somebody else do things. That is the one particular scenario where I'm like, "No, there's like, I am just a cog in this wheel on this ride, and anything can happen, I'm out. I
Yeah.
don't want it." We went on some friends and I went to this, like, carnival in Rhode Island. It's in Southern Rhode Island, and it's a true traveling carnival. And we
Awesome.
went on this ride, and I have no shame in saying this, I was so close to tears. Like,
Yeah,
it
well,
was the
carnival
most
rides,
scared I've ever been in my they're held together with shear pins,
they build it in, like, a couple days. A bunch of
and the
carnies
dude
build it.
pulling the lever and checking your ticket is the same guy that built it. Tell me you want
Yeah.
that guy to build your stuff.
No, yeah, we
No,
we had
absolutely
carnival
not.
we had carnival every year in Lakeland. It's, like, actually technically, like, in Tampa, but, yeah, and there's rides like that there, and people would get on, I'm like, "No, I'm not getting on that ride. I'll go to Busch Gardens,"
No, I'm
where there's,
out.
like, millions of dollars go
Yeah.
into building this thing, but, like, those 3 people you see, they built that thing right there. Um, I wouldn't even
Yeah. No
you know?
instructions, and they had a handful of nuts and bolts when they finished.
Yeah, it's like an IKEA
Every
ride. I'm
time.
like,
So
"No."
those are just go yeah, no, I'm so out on carnival rides.
Um, Carnival rides, I'm out. I do get motion sickness. I do probably have control problems, and I am scared of heights, but, I enjoy the roller coasters, like, the beginning and the middle. The end sucks because then you come back to, like, homeostasis, and you're like, "Alright, this
Yeah.
sucks now."
Maybe that's your
Um,
release. Maybe that's how you let go of all your control and your anxiety. You just go on
just yeah.
to
I mean, I've jumped out of a plane. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
no desire. None at all. It's a perfectly
Well,
working plane.
don't be that guy, Jake. Come on.
No, I
Um,
get it. I totally get the desire. Every time I'm on a tall building and I look over the rail, there's this piece of me that just really wants to jump. Not in a dark way. I wanna jump. I have to qualify that because 'cause I've told that story and people get really concerned.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I have this desire to jump over and just see what it'd be like, but I have 0 desire to ever go skydiving. It's one of those
Hmm.
things, if I finished my life and it didn't happen, I'm totally cool. It's not on the bucket list for me.
Yeah, for me, I think it is like because I'm so scared of heights, I'm like, I have to prove myself wrong. Um, I think it maybe made me like 1% less scared of heights. It was like an overcoming my fears thing. Then when you get down, you're like, nope, still scared. Still very scared.
Were
Like
you
I'm the
terrified in
type
the
of
moment?
person. What's that?
Were you scared in the moment?
Uh, I was terrified to get out of the plane. Um, but the moment you jump, which he kind of like forced me out of the plane, basically.
Well, you're strapped to
Um,
another dude, right?
yeah. But these guys joke around the whole time too. I'm like, you're not making me feel better. Like,
No, your
they're like,
nonchalantness is not confidence here.
yeah, and they're like making jokes like, oh, this is an older backpack, or like, this shoot didn't work one time, but it'll work this time. I'm like, nope, no, no. Like, those aren't funny to me. Like,
No, no.
let's joke at the bottom. Um, so yeah, it forced me out. But the moment you're in the air, like all fear gone. Like I remember thinking because the moment you jump out, you don't even feel the guy attached to you. It's before you pull the chute. You're flying, right? And I grew up like comics, big deal. And I'm like,
Yep.
I am Superman. Like I feel like this is what Superman feels like. You know what I mean? Like flying through there. I remember thinking like I could die and I'd die happy. Um, and
No,
then
Superman can have that one. I'm good.
yeah, it I'd say it's worth it, for that moment, and then, you pull the chute, and that's still cool, like, coming down from the chute, but I don't particularly like stuff like pulling on my stomach, so that part kind of sucked. But now it is worth it. I don't know if I'll do it again, but
Yeah,
someday I want to
I can say with
bungee jump.
confidence I won't do it anytime soon.
Good to know. I won't invite you.
Don't invite me.
Have you bungee jumped?
Fuck no. Absolutely not. You're outside of your mind. I would skydive before I bungee jump.
Bungee jump is jumping off of a building, basically. Like, it's what you want to do.
No, I imagine that is way more dangerous.
Okay,
And
so there's
I'm not particularly adverse to danger. Just I'm sure more bungee jump accidents happen. That's like the carnival ride of that particular adventure. Like jump out of a
all right.
plane, yeah, that is Disneyland. They've got it dialed. Those guys are on top of their stuff. Bungee
That's a
jump,
challenge.
they
Yeah.
hired some local dudes, and they're like, "You want to run that thing on the bridge there?"
$15 an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
There's a bungee jump. So in San Diego, Sunset Cliffs, it's like a 5K hike, and then at the end of the hike, you're at the edge of the cliff and you bungee jump from the cliff. You're not down for something like that day trip?
I'll hike with you.
All right.
I'll take pictures of you while you jump.
I'll keep that in mind for the future. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah.
What's the toughest experience you've ever had to deal with in your life?
The toughest experience I've probably ever had to deal with. I don't know that I've ever like talked about this super publicly. My really good friend that I grew up with, he was one of the misfits with us. 2 years after, about a year and a half after we graduated high school, took his own life. And so he was part of our football team. He was a really big part of our community. And that's not to say that he clearly had some stuff going on, was struggling, but in a really normal life way that no one around him or even not around him would have thought that he would have done something like that. And so that happened, and then I gave his eulogy, and our football team like were the pallbearers. It was a pretty heavy experience for everybody, and we were just removed out of high school, so it was still super fresh. Like we had just seen each other. We would see each other when we were home for Thanksgiving. He actually went to church with my mom all the time, and he still used. So I have a little basement gym in my like childhood home, and he was still living there, and he still would go use the gym and like have dinner with my parents. And so they saw him super frequently still. So it was still pretty fresh. But I'd have to say that was the toughest thing.
Yeah. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It was formative for sure.
Yeah, I would like we had 10th grade, same thing, not same thing, similar thing. And it makes you like, whoa, like people really do that, like
Yeah,
you hear about it, you read about it, and then when someone in your world does it, you're like, oh man, now that's a big deal to me. Like this is something that's important,
yeah, it's a heavy experience.
It changes things, and it's unfortunate, somewhat of a rabbit hole, like, because you have other friends that deal with stuff and you're like, hey man, please let me know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and then they begin to struggle and don't let you know. And I'm like, you don't want to remind them, but it's like, remember, let's all just commit to making sure that doesn't happen. Like,
Yeah,
so it kind of wakes everybody up, but then some people, for lack of better words, go back to sleep sometimes. And it's like, no. Like we all should learn, like we got to remember in a good way, like,
right.
for that to be an example, for us to, anyways. Yeah, man, that's rough.
Yeah, I was what, you're 2 years out of high school, so you're like 20. I was like 20.
Yeah, that'll like shake you in your college years, especially.
Yeah.
What you said you grew up on a farm.
Yep.
Did you do farm boy things? Like, I know you said horses.
Yeah,
so
I'm not quite Colton Mertens. but I definitely did farm boy things. Uh, we had a horse farm, so there's less farm boy things to do as far as
Yeah, you didn't have pigs
cultivating
and
the
stuff.
fields, right? We didn't have pigs. I heard somebody say, I talked to him for a while at Wadapalooza about farming, but I heard somebody say that he's feeding like 1,000 pigs a day.
I
It's
I
not
would
it's not a little pen of pigs, it's a lot.
it wouldn't surprise me. I think that's like his full-time job. I'll see on his story, on his Instagram story from time to time, like him going to a farm, like it seems like a big farm.
It is a very big farm. We talked
So,
for a little bit
you know,
about it, but growing up, mostly it was mucking the stalls, right? So like cleaning up horse shit. We'd bring the horses in every morning, feed them, and you would take one horse out of the stall at a time, and you'd groom it. And while it was being groomed, somebody would be in there mucking the stall. And so as I got older, all my buddies started coming to work for the farm. So it was me and four of my best friends. And so we'd work on the farm in the morning, and then my mom had a small landscaping company that for the middle of the day we'd go mow lawns and put down mulch and do landscaping. And then we'd get back to the farm and bring the horses in for their afternoon feed, and then we would go and do whatever teenage boys do for the rest of the day. Um, so the first half of the day was spent working, and then for the rest of the day we'd go work out and then go party, I guess. Not party, but we'd go
yeah,
do random things.
that's a solid day. Did you so were you guys did you ride the horses a lot? Are you a cowboy? Are you just humble
When
about
I
it?
was young, yeah, no, when I was young, I rode the horses a ton. We'd ride
Um,
I'd bring friends over. So our middle school is right across from the farm.
ooh,
Uh,
you were the
and
horse
so
guy,
I was a horse guy for sure.
horse plug.
And I'd bring
Uh,
I'd bring buddies over and I'd make them ride them bareback. So
ooh,
no saddle, just hopping on it.
that's a way to you know, break in your friendships.
Yeah, we
Did
all
you ever
fell
like
off at some point.
Oh, that's awesome. What about did you ever invite did you ever leverage that to get girls?
In
You
high
got
school, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, did you at a young age, as a young boy, did you look at horses and be like, I want hair like that? And then is that why you have the hair you have now?
No, so I've actually had long hair since first grade, or that's the last picture of me with short hair is first grade. But I do remember I would go to the hairdresser with my mom to get my hair cut, and I'd always want a buzz cut. Every time I'd ask for a buzz cut, and she would never let me get a buzz cut. It was probably your length. And then at some point it just got longer and longer and longer, and I had like a fro, man, all of elementary, middle, and high school, and then in college, uh, a girl that had the dorm next to me was like, "Hey, can I put your hair in a bun?" And she did, and we both at the same time were like, "That looks way better." So I kept the bun.
Changed everything for you.
Yeah, big come up.
That's cool.
I went back to my high school the year after I graduated, and I at that time had a bun and a beard, and I had teachers who I was close with not recognize me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty
Um,
funny.
they're like hitting on you. Like, who is this? Is this a new adjunct professor? And you're like, no, it's Jake.
No, they were just like I was with my girlfriend at the time, and the the teacher who I'm thinking of specifically emailed her later and was like, please tell Jake I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was him." Yeah,
You are you single now? Are you dating?
I am dating.
Okay. Um, is it can you who are you dating? Can you share? Is it secret?
Yeah, you know her. Victoria.
Oh,
Vic
okay.
takes a
Yeah.
shot. Yeah, yeah.
Dick takes the shot. She's really cool. I enjoyed hanging out with her
Yeah,
a little
she's
bit at
great.
Waterpalooza. Um,
Yeah, she's great.
you mentioned your buddy and your mom would go to church together. Were you raised Catholic, Christian, Jewish?
Yeah, I was raised Catholic.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of the northeastern Norm, do you still practice any form of religion now, or where do you
Not as much as my
sit?
mom would want me to, but meaning that I just don't really go to church. But I was raised. My mom got progressively more religious as we got older, or as I got older. And I don't say that in a negative way at all, but she taught CCD. I was her first CCD class, and we were monsters. We were so bad. It was me and all of my friends. So we
Yeah,
were
I can see that.
terrible, which was kind of good because every class she's had since has been better. So we set her up for success. Um,
Yeah, I mean, hard stuff in the beginning, and then you just
and then
curate,
everything else is
iterate.
easy. uh, I certainly still have faith, but I'm not practicing in that I go to church.
Yeah. I do you think that has anything to do, like, have you been to a Christian church or a non-denominational church or anything like that since your experience with Catholicism?
I have. I have not been to like, oh, the name is slipping me, but one of the newer, I call them hipster churches. You know what I'm talking
Is what it
about?
is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I would go for sure. I have not though. I haven't been. There's a church here in Providence that is it's the it's the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul. It's bananas. It is like a Gothic cathedral. It's huge. But it was right across the street from college. And so every Sunday I'd go to this 6 o'clock while I was living on campus because it was like an hour away from everything. It was an hour away from CrossFit, it was away from school, anything that was happening, it was away from that. And so I'd go and I'd sit in the back and just be silent for an hour. Like I'd go up for communion, but I didn't my mom would be pissed. I didn't participate in fellowship, like I didn't go talk to anybody.
yeah.
But I don't not go because I have a problem necessarily with the traditional church. I mean, I've got a lot of problems with the traditional church from a philosophic point of view and like the way they go about things currently. But I mostly don't go because of time.
You said currently, like, do you mean the Catholic Church or the church at large, like the global Christian church, or like the Catholic Church currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the Catholic Church currently,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I would.
any religion, any belief system, uh, I'd say falls into that same trap where they alienate people by adhering too closely to their own like made up dogma.
It's difficult. It's, because this is like every church is made up of human beings.
Right.
And in that group of human beings, there's a handful of leaders, and those leaders are responsible for knowing everything. And they have to create systems and sort of manifest these dogmas. And so it's like people begin to look at church leadership as if they're God. And it's like, no, 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 you got to expect a significant amount of flaws in a church because a church is made up of human beings. Like,
Right.
um, there is one God, and as Christians, we believe that God is perfect, but everyone else is pretty messed up. You know what I mean? So like, and he put us in charge of building these churches. And so fundamentally, there's going to be a significant amount of error and flaws. And of course, uh, say one thing, do another, because we're trying to preach righteousness and perfection. And of course, none of
Right.
us reach that. And
Yeah, I
some
think
fall
that's it.
very
Like
short.
people take religion or anything they believe in so seriously. And that's if you don't take anything seriously, like then you kind of just live a life without purpose. But there's very little room, especially in religion, for nuance, I feel, for most people, right? They start talking about their beliefs. And if anything falls outside of that, and this goes for political beliefs, religious
Yeah,
beliefs, CrossFit, when things fall
sure.
outside of that, instead of trying to understand them, they just like shirk them away.
Yeah.
And
I think
often
that's where
politically
the
right now, it's
empathy.
like hate, right? Anything that falls outside of your beliefs, like I'm gonna dislike that person for that. Or anything that falls outside of your religious beliefs, say, like no matter what religion you practice, often people, and this is not everyone, right? But these are my problems with it. So I'm speaking in
Sure.
extremes, but often people will write that person off and go, they don't get it. They need to be saved or whatever your religion's version of that is, instead of just
Yeah.
seeking to understand. Like, not that of course I've done that in different facets, right? Like somebody who doesn't
Human
believe in the
nature.
same
Yeah.
thing that I do, like, and I'm like, well, you're dumb for that. But for the most part, we should, I feel like we should seek to understand more. And my problem with the current Catholic Church is that that's not the case.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, it's so complicated, and I won't pretend to know what it's like to be like a church leader. But the Bible is very specific on some things, and then like grace is nuanced, right? Like grace isn't
Right.
well defined or structured. But then the law, right, is very specific. But then again, the law has nuance to it. Like the word covet could mean different things. So we could go down a rabbit hole here, but it's
Yeah,
like
right. There's just, the point is there's
um,
nuance, and you've
there's
got to
nuance
respect
to it.
that and have room for the gray area as people.
Yeah, and so like we live on like the religious spectrum. I think one of the best ways I've like defined it for myself is Jesus was like a manifestation of both truth and grace, right? And so like there's like this spectrum or pendulum that at least religious people live on, where some are more err on the side of truth, which can be like self-righteousness, like woe is me, I'm like, if you're not like me, then I don't want anything to do with you. And then
Right.
there's too much grace, where there's believers that live wild lifestyles and kind of have a bad reflection of what Christianity or whatever religion they follow really looks like. And it's like the idea is to live in the middle of that, like
Yeah. I
and
mean, I think
it's
that's like
difficult.
that's the that's life, right? Though, like, not to get super heady, but in my opinion, or at least my operating belief, is that that is the case with everything, not just religion. Like your own values and beliefs, like you can't hold so true to those that you become self-righteous, right? Because if you're self-righteous, no matter what, like even if you're 100% right and you're self-righteous, you kind of suck,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, But on the other side, like you can't give yourself so much grace that you just do whatever the fuck you want, right? I mean, think about it with training. Like a really easy example is you have your program, and if you stick to it rep by rep 100%, it's going to fail you at some point because that's not how humans operate, right? There's going to need to be some room for you to like auto regulate that. And same goes with your sleep, your nutrition, everything, right? Like shit happens and gets in the way. And if you hold so tightly to it, you're just fragile.
Yeah.
And like progress is going to stall because when something goes awry, you're just like everything blows up. Where on the other side is if you're always giving yourself so much grace, you're like, I'm tired today. I don't have to, or I'm reading this book or watching this show. I'll just stay up till 1 a.m. Or you're like, my accessory work today, I'll do it another day. Like you're also never going to progress. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just making an analogy, right? But it's the same with training is if you hold too closely, you're kind of screwed, and you hold too loosely, you're screwed. So yeah, the answer is always in the middle.
Yep.
I think
Yeah, I
maybe.
agree. It was a good analogy. Way to bring it back to CrossFit. No, I mean that. That was good. Kind of going back to CrossFit, we've been at it for a little over an hour, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'd like to talk about
It's a
some
rest day,
CrossFit
baby.
stuff.
I got all the time.
Oh, let's get it. I think I might have a 9:00. Actually, let me check. I do. Morning chalk up. So what was your first CrossFit workout, Jake?
What's the name of it? Angie, the 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 air squats.
Okay. That's like, it's not a scary CrossFit WOD where you're like, F this. You're like, I've been doing push-ups and pull-ups. Like,
No,
pretty good.
I was like, I was pretty good at it because pull-ups, push-ups, and air squats were something that I did a ton in my training anyway.
Yeah.
And looking back, like a lot of my training was, you know who Joe DeFranco is?
Of course.
Yeah, so Joe DeFranco, Chad Wesley Smith, those guys were what Clint. Do you know who Clint Darden is?
Mm-mm.
He's a power lifter, and he wrote for Elite FTS, but he's also a strongman. He's a powerlifter strongman. So those three influenced my training a ton. So way before I ever did CrossFit, like the first piece of equipment I bought was a Prowler. I had a big 600-pound tire in my yard. Like we were doing CrossFit-esque things. So moving fast with like other load, my first introduction was not CrossFit. Like I didn't come into the gym and do Fran and just like absolutely mollywopped. But yeah, it was Angie, and then the next workout I do remember doing was Fran.
Mm. Did you do it strict pull-ups?
No, I did it kipping.
Okay. Did you like just learn how to kip or something and then jump in there?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
I just came into the gym one day before we did our football class and did it in the corner because I wanted to try it.
Yeah, it was extremely popular back then.
Yeah, I heard like sub 5 minutes was a good time. I just went in and went for it.
I think it took me 20 minutes or something my first time. But again, I was doing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Globo Gym. I'm doing strict pull-ups and I'm doing squat to overhead press. I'm not doing thrusters. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It was front squat, overhead press, front squat, overhead press.
Yeah.
What's the most trouble you've ever been in your life?
Ooh. When we were kids, like high schoolers, middle schoolers, really, we got, you know, when you don't get arrested, but they take your information down?
Lucky.
Yeah. A couple of those. And then I got into this fist fight with a dude who was 54. And like, I promise I did not start. We walked across his lawn and we were walking down this path that goes behind his house to a fireman's carnival, to the carnival. And I remember it super vividly. It was my mom's birthday. We were in high school. We had a birthday dinner for my mom. And then we went over to this buddy's house who lives next to this dude, parked at his house, and then walked over to the carnival. Well, he thought we
Ferris
walked
Bueller
on his lawn. Ferris Bueller style. Thought that we walked on his lawn. And so he came after us and was yelling at us. And we were ignoring him. And finally, I turned around and I went, are we good? What's your problem? And I had long hair at the time. And he grabbed my hair. And there is nothing that can get, like, I used to be probably a pretty angry 8th, 9th, 10th grader. And now there's pretty much nothing that can get me to that point except if you pulled my hair. Like, it's just this trigger. And so he pulled my hair and like I grabbed his hands, and then two of our buddies kind of just broke it apart. And one turned his back and the dude just plugged me in the face.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. He throws this punch at me. And I kind of like step back because I'm just so surprised that this is happening. And I see his kid running up. And I go, oh, all right, cool. He's going to grab his dad. His kid jumps up and punches my best friend. And
What, like
so
a child?
I'm
like a
no,
little
his kid is a year. No, he graduated a year ahead of us in high school.
Okay.
We're juniors in high school.
You've got a brawl.
Oh yeah, dude. And this guy comes up and just Superman punches my buddy. And so I am now maybe 10 feet removed from the situation. And so they start going at it. I'm not going to jump in because they're perfectly capable of handling it themselves. And I see the dad walk over very casually. So in my head, I'm going, he's going to go break this up, pull his son off because he realized what the hell just happened. No, he goes to go start punching my buddy with this.
Yeah.
And so I ran in and tackled him, and we roll on the ground, and we stand up, and he grabs my hair and punches me in the face. And
Did
then
you?
it got broken up by what's that?
I was like, did you punch him at all?
Yes, yeah. Like so he grabs my hair, punches me, I retaliate. Um, then at this point, there was enough people there that people actually grabbed them, and one of the, like the parking cops in training, they're like cops in training.
Yeah.
There's one of them there, and so he broke it up, and they ran back to their house. The dude was plastered. He was
Yeah, I was
hammered
gonna say he
drunk.
must have been wasted. Somebody probably walked in his lawn earlier that day.
Yeah, so we went to
They were
court for
walking.
that, but I
Oh
wasn't
wow, you
really
guys
in
went to
trouble.
court?
Yeah. So my buddy's mom is crazy, like crazy. Grew up in New Britain, moved to my hometown for a quieter place where there was less trouble to get in. So when she found out, she essentially said that we had to press charges or she was gonna go over to his house, and both her son and myself, this kid is like my mother, we went, all right, well, you could press charges because whatever happens when you go over his house, we don't want that.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So we went to court for that. I wasn't in trouble. Like we weren't in trouble at all.
That's
But that's
I'm
probably the
glad
biggest.
I'm glad I asked that question. That was great. Um, who's your favorite person to compete with or against in obviously in CrossFit?
Oh man. So I've got a lot of buddies that I like to compete against or with or whatever. Uh, my buddy Tristan, who's my training partner at the moment, we always have a ton of fun competing together, specifically at Wadapalooza. He was at Granite Games too. This past at Wadapalooza, Bailey Rail and her boyfriend Tyler Christophel were absolutely awesome in the warm up area. Like I wasn't really there with anybody. Coop was there, but I didn't have like a handler in the back or a coach
Yeah.
the whole time. And so I kind of latched onto them and we hung out for a lot of that competition and they were just awesome. And him and I were competing against each other often the same heat. And they were
Yeah.
super cool to be around. I like people in the warm up area where we can, because I personally can joke around and hang out and be pretty chill before I go out. And they were fun to hang around. But
Yeah, they're
I
really
also have
good
a lot
people.
of
I like them.
friends in the space. So Peter Mason was there. He's fun to compete with. Jason, of course. We were in different heats at Wadapalooza for the most part, and so
Yeah.
he'd kind of be getting into the warm up area as I was leaving. But he's a blast to hang out with. Yeah, Owen Bernstein. I don't know if you've met Owen. He hasn't competed in a while, but to be honest with you, my favorite person to compete with on a team, Coop.
Okay.
Coop and I did more like partner competitions all throughout the Northeast than you can imagine. If there was a partner competition, we were doing it.
I can see that.
He's a blast to compete with.
He's pretty fit too. Like he played soccer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a
Coop,
period of time where he was doing almost all of my training with me.
he's
And so he was super fit.
yeah, he's fast. Like like I was watching a video the other day of one of his friends, I think Chris or someone at the gym that he trains at in Scottsdale, and he was in the background of the video doing double unders, and I was like, who hurt you, bro? He was like going so fast. You could see it his face. It was like aggressive. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know anybody that does double unders that fast. Like you got to pee or something. You know what I mean? Like it was so
He's
fast.
fit.
He's fit. What's it like working with Fraser? How did that come about actually?
So Sammy coached at Full Range for a long time, which is the gym here in Providence that I work at
Okay.
and coach at. And we just met through that, Sammy and I. And then when she started dating Matt, she started bringing him around the gym. And when he was in town, we would train together. And at first, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I'm training with this dude who just won the games or took second. And we just kind of hit it off and became buddies. And so we kept in touch for the last 6 years, competed at a couple of the same competitions. And through that just became friends. And then when he launching his program, I saw the announcement and I texted him and was like, yo, I'm going to do your program when it comes out. And he hit me back and asked me to test it for him before it came out and just provide some feedback. And I had a bunch of training partners at the time that I was working out with who were of different levels of fitness. And so I told him that we would all test it and I'd give him some feedback on it. And then from there, it kind of naturally progressed to him asking me to write some warm ups and then to write some workouts. And from there, I just started to work for him writing. The first thing I really did, so I wrote some warm ups, wrote some workouts, like Metcon specifically, and then coached for them at the games, like just the in person classes they were having. And then from there, started really writing programming for them.
That's super cool.
And naturally
I think
progressed.
in this industry, that's kind of like how a lot of people get their opportunities by being available, like being like serving a cause or a purpose. Like, you know, hey, I'm going to do your program. And he's like, you want to test it? And you're like, yeah. And you test it. And instead of being like, yeah, pay me, you know? And then it's been the evolution of this
Right.
opportunity for you.
Yeah, it's been super cool. What's that?
I was going to say you froze for a second, but you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been super cool. I mean, just the opportunity to test it was really cool. And he was like, "You can have it before everybody else gets it." I was like, "Yeah, 100%, please." So that was it was cool. And then at Granite Games, he texted me before Granite Games and was like, "Yo, do you want some help while you're there?" I was like, "Do I want some help? Absolutely. Anything you're
Yeah.
willing to give." And him and Sammy were super helpful for the whole competition. And the first piece of advice that he gave me when I got there, like the first thing when I saw him that he said, changed the whole weekend positively for me.
What did he say?
He was just like, "Hey, manage the heat. That's going to be the biggest thing this weekend. It's going to be super hot. If you manage the heat, you probably won't even feel it. If you're really diligent about it." And so he gave me his bucket hat and was like, "Yo, fill this up with ice after every event." And I had everybody at home texting me like, "Why are you wearing a hat? You never wear hats." Um, and so I'd fill it up with ice and then I'd take a cold shower after events. And when I see people I competed with at Granite Games and they're like, "Wasn't it so hot?" It did not feel particularly hot for me. I
Wow.
just managed it
He's a
pretty well.
smart competitor, man. He's a smart person. A couple we got like 3 minutes left. We're gonna ring through a couple deep questions and a couple rapid fire ones. You ready?
Hit me. I'll try to give concise answers.
All right. Summer or winter?
Winter.
All right. Favorite cartoon as a kid?
SpongeBob.
All right. Yu-Gi-Oh or Dragon Ball Z?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Dang, bro, that's heresy. Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
All right, you're clearly a big Yu-Gi-Oh fan. Pizza or tacos?
Tacos.
Tacos or burgers?
Burgers.
Okay. If you could choose to talk every language, every human language, or talk to animals, which would you choose?
Animals.
Beach or
More
mountain?
practical answer is language. Like that'd be really useful and cool, but dude, it'd be super cool to talk to animals.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
If you could put anything on a big blank billboard for anyone to see, what would it say?
Ooh. The one thing that's coming to mind is there's this poem called "Don't Try." So don't try.
Don't try. That would make so many people like, what does that mean? Like, just driving by every day. I like that. I probably will talk to you more about that sidebar later.
I'll send you the poem.
Okay, sweet. And man, yeah, I'm excited to talk more about that. Low key love poetry, but how much of your success or most people's success in CrossFit do you think is hard work, and how much do you think is genetics? Like if you were going to give a percentage to one and the other.
I'd say it really depends on the person. You know that quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard?
Yeah.
I think that's especially true in CrossFit. Like, I think that you can beat somebody who's more talented than you by working hard, but there's a certain component of like our sport is so specific in the it's funny because it's so general, right? But it's
Yeah.
so specific in the fact that you have to be really strong and able to endure that there's only a certain amount of people who can do that. Period. Like baseline. You can develop it and you can probably make it to regionals, but there's only so many people who can possess like both of those traits and compete. So there is a big element of genetics and talent, or even if it's not a genetic predisposition, but whatever your sport background is that allows that to happen. If you're like a decathlete who had to be pretty good at everything, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with all these teen athletes who this is their sport, right? They come into it and like this is what they do. I think they'll be changing that.
Yeah.
I think that if you start early enough, you can for sure take yourself from just a standard athlete to a CrossFit Games athlete.
You can like fabricate it along the way.
Yeah.
You got a percentage for me, or we 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, 12-88?
I mean, I would always say that hard work is more important than genetics, right? But you have to have like some baseline level, right? Like, and think about it this way, like this is where the minimum is for genetics. Some guys are already right here, but as long as you have here, then it's hard work.
Yeah. I'll take that. All right, Jake. Dude, I love this call. Love you, man. Love hanging out with you, learning more about you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Would love to stay on longer, but I do at a 9 a.m. I got to jump on. I got to switch over to.
Well, it's 9 o'clock.
I know. So I'm going to let you go, bro. Can't wait to catch up with you soon. And thanks for taking the time today, man.
Jared, thanks for having me. Have a good day.
You too, bro. See you, Jake.
All right. See you later.